Okay, today is the 171st Motivational Monday. That means we've been doing this for at least 3 years. Okay, morning, Huiswan. Morning, Hock Seng. Let's get started. I asked for suggestions for today's Motivational Monday, which is the last for 2023. And Jeff suggested the topic of rest. How might rest fit in with leadership? And he added that we know that rest is necessary, but how can a leader rest with no remorse? Okay, so it heightened, it encouraged me to hear him say this. How can a leader rest with no remorse? Because that shows his spirit always working. And I think it's a perfect subject as we approach the Christmas holiday season at the end of 12 months of hard work. And the thing about our business is, we set ourselves monthly targets, or the business sets us monthly targets. So it's just, it's 11 solid months of hard work. Now, what is rest? Rest is taking a break from routine. Okay? It's taking a break from rigor. It's taking a break from the race. We are always in a race. We are playing to win. Okay? Rest is about renewal, restoration, and it's about building reserves, because this isn't the last race. Okay, this isn't the last battle. There is a war that's going on, a war to fight for freedom. And so we want to always build reserves for the next phase. Intuitively, I think you know that rest is necessary for physical health, mental ability, or mental acuity, emotional health, and social health. What do we mean by social health? Well, as an example, for example, to your subordinates, a boss that doesn't take a rest, well, the subordinates feel that rest is not important. And we already do that regularly, daily through sleeping. Weekly, we have our Sabbath day, our day of rest. Monthly, we have our leaders gathering. And then now we have this year-end holiday season. Now, I want to look into a bit of detail using the mnemonic rest. Jeff asked this question: how can a leader rest with no remorse? And we will see that there will be great remorse. Okay, there will be great remorse if a leader does not rest. So let me elaborate on 4 aspects using the mnemonic rest. So the first R is reflect. Okay? And here I want to quote from Dr. Joel Humans in his paper called Lessons in Leadership: Rest or Fail. Okay, it's rest or fail. Lessons in Leadership. So rest is about leadership. I like this title straight away. And Jeff was right. He was looking at it from the leadership point of view. So Dr. Joel Human says, plan time for reflection. Find or create a quiet place for thinking, reviewing, censuring, and prioritizing the day. This will maximize your capacity for learning and planning. Along these lines, it is interesting to note that a study of 20,000 leaders by Zenger and Folkman revealed that the one statistically significant habit they found among the most successful leaders was that they took time for reflection. Okay. In a TED Talk on the power of rest and reflection, Daniel Rubin said, without resting and reflecting on the past, you have no present. Without resting and reflecting on the past, you have no present. That's the importance of reflection. And, we talk about reflection on a daily basis, but definitely if you do it on a daily basis, you will do it on a monthly basis, and you will do it on an annual basis. And the time of rest is when you do this reflection. It's about quality versus quantity. So, reflection is about the quality of the time you have invested in the past day, the past week, the past month, the past year. And by reflecting, you retain the value of all these experiences. Okay? With no reflection, you're actually watching the quantity of time disappear forever, gone forever. Okay? We are so busy, we can't even remember what we did the week before. Don't talk about what we learned from what we did. Now, on the 18th of December, I will send out homework for the leaders planning day. Okay, for those who are participating in the planning day to reflect on 2023 and then think about 2024. So that's a practice that we already have. And we will look at what worked, what didn't. We will look at the wheel of life, those aspects I mentioned earlier, intellectual, physical, spiritual, social, and then look at their career. And then we will look at it from, the three aspects of your performance, your experience, and your learning. We are really trying to get as much as possible out of this time of reflection. So, okay, so the R is reflection. The E, okay, this one you all will like. The E stands for eat, E-A-T, eat. So feed myself, literally. Eat for energy, to build muscle. Eat to celebrate. Okay, so eating is one thing, and I'm not being funny about, facetious about this. Let me share with you my own experience, how I began learning about this. When I was running long distance in university, I learned the most about storing energy when preparing for the actual marathon race. Okay, the actual race, we would do what you all know now as carbo loading. Okay, so at the end of all the months of training, just before the last week, we do an extra depletion run. So we do an extra long run to deplete all our stores of glycogen, okay, energy in the body. And then this will be followed by a few days of very deliberate and conscientious consumption of carbohydrate. And that is to increase the storage of glycogen in the body. Why you deplete it is because when there's deficit, the body will overcompensate and it will store more than it normally does. And this is done especially to avoid hitting this dreaded wall, the dreaded wall at the 20-mile mark. Okay? The wall is this point where you run out of energy, where it feels that you can't go on anymore and that someone has, almost taken the plug out. If plug out the electrical plug. Okay, so eat is an important part about why you go and when you rest. Okay, read. Okay, read is to just relax, non-fiction, feed. And remember, this rest is not just passive, do nothing. This is an active type of rest where you are, you're feeding your mind, you're feeding your body. Spend time with friends because that's when you got time. Okay, when you're resting, learn from them. Okay, so reflect, eat. The S is slow down. Okay, slow down. Now, slow down. People think of sleep, which is really important because I know many people, for example, on this AsiaWorks Stellar program. Now, many of them are, very high performance people. That's why they're on the Stellar program and they're sleeping 4 hours a day. How long can you do that? You want to. Many people is just to sleep and recover. Okay. Then to recharge not just physically but emotionally. But I want to talk a bit about sleep, which we don't do enough about because there's so much work and then there's social media. Okay, and I'm guilty of that. So let me read to you from this article from Harvard Business Review on sleep well, lead better. Sleep well, lead better. Okay, so this again, sleeping related to leadership. It is clear that you can squeeze in more work hours if you sleep less. But remember that the quality of your work and your leadership inevitably declines as you do so, often in ways that are invisible to you. As Jeff Bezos says, making a small number of key decisions well is more important than making a large number of decisions. If you shortchange your sleep, you might get a couple of extra productive hours, but that productivity might be an illusion. Even worse, as my research highlights, you will negatively affect your subordinates. Okay. Now, let's go back to that article by Joel Humans on lessons in leadership, rest or fail. He talks about how rest deprivation. That means if you deprive yourself of rest, how it causes failure. New research on sleep and rest has determined that inadequate amounts of rest adversely impact our creativity and problem-solving abilities, as well as our relationships, productivity, and alertness. In fact, one study indicated that those with adequate rest were 3 times as productive as those without adequate rest. As leaders, our competence casts a large shadow. We place our families and our entire organization at risk when our decision-making skills and problem-solving skills are retarded by a lack of restoration. I want to tell a story. When I was commanding officer, during in-camp training, we would the end of the in-camp training would be a 5 or 6 day battalion mission exercise. And before that, we go on the mission, we would spend 3 days of map planning. I call it wayang, like a show before the controllers, those people who assess you. Okay, and of course, because we are having this wayang, this show before, trying to impress the controllers, there's very little, no sleep. Everyone is just awake, trying to show off. And then we have the mission. Okay, the mission is overnight, again, another 12 hours without sleep. Then once we've finished the attack, the second mission is the defense. Immediately, we have to start planning in the field. And you know what? When I'm planning, almost all my staff officers are half asleep. Okay. And then, of course, after the defense, there's a third mission is to attack again. That's even worse. That's even less sleep. So what I did, and that was very, very different than anyone, I would indent an extra tent, a big tent, have that set up next to the main planning tent, and I would insist my officers go in there and they sleep there whenever they had a chance. So they're not in the presence of other people watching them sleep. I said, you go there and you sleep because I need you to be awake, for the second and the third mission. The Turkish chef and restaurateur Salt Bey, he said, being tired isn't anything. What's important is the mind. The body being tired isn't important. You can get over the body being tired by resting for a half hour or an hour. What's important is whether the mind is tired. And social entrepreneur Brian McGill said, your calm mind is the ultimate weapon against your challenges. And the reason why, I'm very big on resting is because we are interacting with people all the time, customers, downlines, and we are often in a difficult situation. We really got to be calm and cheerful. Okay. The American poet and writer Roger Zelazny said, of all the things a man may do, sleep probably contributes most to keeping him sane. It puts brackets about each day. If you do something foolish or painful today, you get irritated if somebody mentions it today. If it happened yesterday, though you can nod or chuckle as the case may be, you've crossed through nothingness or a dream to another island in time. So, you can just put it aside. So, Dr. Sandra Dalton Smith also did a TED Talk on the 7 types of rest that every person needs. And she talks through these things that I've just mentioned. She talks about physical rest, which I said can be passive or active, talks about mental rest, talks about sensory rest. That's rest from bright lights, computer screens, rest from background noise and multiple conversations. That's a sensory rest. Creative rest, how you get that by appreciating nature, enjoying the arts. Emotional rest, having the time and space to freely express your feelings, cut back on people pleasing, be authentic. So if you're on social media too much, you got to watch yourself because that you remain authentic. Otherwise, emotionally, it's a strain. Social rest, differentiate between those relationships that revive us. Differentiate from those relationships that revive us from those relationships that exhaust us. Surround yourself with positive and supportive people. And of course, number 7, spiritual rest. So REST, reflect, eat, slow down, and the last T is together. So we are toiling together as a team through the year. I like to play team also when we rest. So we toil together, we also play together as a team. Talk during the rest time, talk to team members, tease them, that means have fun, toast them, acknowledge them. And we do that not just in the in the Christmas parties. We do that at the year-end family reflection where we say positive things about each other. And of course, we travel together. Okay, many of people are traveling together at this time. Okay? You know, talking about travel, up till now, I don't have any airport lounge rights. You know, when you go to special lounges, despite spending so much every month on our credit cards, I'm sure we are entitled to the top lounges. Why is that? I've never had the desire to go to a classy lounge on my own when all my traveling mates are traveling on, cattle class. So we want to travel together. That's the fun. I like to travel together. So, why do I want to isolate myself in a lounge just to eat something better and show off, and make people jealous? So that's how I like to travel. Go to ordinary places with ordinary people, but have an extraordinary time together.